Welcome to Podcast 197. Is your company or region headed towards control and bureaucracy? Are you trying to stop it? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I am absolutely jacked about this podcast episode tonight. I have been just through a fantastic day, and I was actually able to speak with a consultant this morning from the table group and actually ask this same question and get some really sage advice. And the question was centered around how to really create innovation from a grassroots level as an organization gets larger or a region gets larger or a business unit gets larger, and there's a tendency to head towards bureaucracy or control, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about. That's the key topic. And I just want to say that sometimes when I do these podcasts, I do the outline. I usually do the outline in the morning. I'll ponder it throughout the day. I'll do research. I'll bring things in from different books. I'll read summaries. I'll actually order the paperback copies of the books and things like that. And I get into it and I'm like, okay, we're going to make this happen. But for today, it just kind of came together and clicked. And I'm just jacked. I'm super excited about this topic today. So you're going to love it. Let's just go ahead and get going here real quick. So here was the question. And actually, I think it wasn't probably a question. It was an answer to actually one of my questions. On LinkedIn, I respond to people on LinkedIn on the messages and sometimes ask if they have any ideas for podcast topics. And so I think this was in direct response. So it's really, in all fairness, to be fair, this wasn't a question like somebody needed my help. It was, hey, here's an interesting topic for you. So one area, this is what the person said. One area or challenge I think of a lot is implementation. How do you capture and leverage all the great creative and innovative ideas our field teams come up with from a bottom-up innovation standpoint? It appears as organizations grow, they become more bureaucratic and less nimble. When this happens, focus can become more internal and less external on our customers and project teams. Implementation then becomes more top-down. So I really enjoy this topic. And I think it's important because, it says one area or challenge is implementation. How do you capture and leverage all of the great creative and innovative ideas? So number one, everyone knows that I talk a lot about Paul Akers and his 2-second lean method. I really, really do believe in this. I believe that in a region, even if it's a little bit larger, or in a company, and this is possible, I've personally done it. If a group of people can start to innovate and share with lean videos and scale those videos, then that region, that group of people will actually start to head in a pretty cool direction. That's easier said than done because there are people that don't want to do it. Sometimes it's slow moving, but if you can get champions and create a culture and have it be a pay to play requirement that everyone, every job site comes up with these ideas and shares them and you actually do something with them, that's really key. But there's so much more to this topic. And so let's go ahead and get into that here in just a bit. But the bottom line question is, how can we keep the nimbleness and the innovation at the project level when the organization gets bigger? So that's what we're going to cover about today. So what am I excited about in life? I'm excited about, and this kind of ties into our topic a little bit, but I'm excited about this mindset that I've been able to gain over the last 2 years. And this has come from training, professional development training, but basically getting out of the negativity, stop being drugged down, and really focusing on where I want to be. I'll give you a couple of just quick examples. There are a lot of people that, because of different things that I'm asked to do, can be quite mean. And I used to let that bother me. If somebody would say a mean comment or send me a text or something that was just hurtful, I'd worry about it for a day and a half. And I have been trained through these systems and through these different mindsets to now, hear it, understand it, emotionally go there for a couple of minutes, 10, 20 minutes, and then to basically say, hey, I can't do anything about it, or I have done something about it, or, it is what it is. Sometimes people are just like that, and I accept myself. And so I'll let it go. And I'll be perfectly happy, and it won't ruin my day or my week. And I really feel like these mindsets, these growth mindsets, can really help us understand, hey, this feedback, even this hurtful comment, is just going to make me better. This is what I'm going to do with it, and I'm going to let it go. And even I'm reading a book, again, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And, I recommend that somebody read that once a year. Whatever you think in your mind is where you're going to head. And so I've been really excited about the mindsets that I've been able to, get into the habit of. I see emotional people, and I used to be super, 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 super emotional. In fact, I still am a little bit with Katie. So she'd be like, yeah, he's not balanced at all. But these emotional people that just get spun out or in life like a pinball, in a video game machine or in an arcade, they're just being bounced all around by what people think in emotional situations, and they're unhinged and unhappy. And I just think to myself, I really feel sorry that they haven't been exposed to information that gives them a better mindset. I thank God that I have. It doesn't make me better. It just makes me lucky, right? I didn't earn that. That just happened to be what happened. But I just want to say that for anybody that might feel like that in life, emotionally victimized, there are mindsets, there are ways, there's training to get you out of it. I'm really excited about that. And I'm seeing after a couple of years of doing that I'm so programmed now that it doesn't bother me. So let's go on to our next little piece before we keep going on the podcast. Let's talk about fans and the feedback. Here's one. Good morning, Jason. First, I want to say thank you for putting these podcasts out here for us. I'm a senior superintendent in this area. I'm not going to mention where. I started listening to your season 1, episodes 40 through 50 series. I find them very interesting and very helpful. I was wondering if I could get some PDFs of your topics to use to train our younger superintendents and assistant superintendents. Your ideas and theories are great tools for development of these younger generations. Me being a senior guy, we did not have these tools when I was spreading my wings, so to speak. Let me know. And again, thanks for what you do. And so I would say that, elevating construction superintendents, any of the downloads on my website, personally emailing me, I'll send you anything you want. I've got more books coming out, more trainings. The next book that's going to come out is called Elevating Construction Tact Planning. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. The cover's done. I'm almost done writing the fable. The editor's jamming through there. The only thing I'm a little hesitant about is to promise the Audible date because the ACX website takes forever. It's just a garbage submission process. But the KDP, the Kindle Direct Publishing website, will be up to where I'm hoping this book comes out soon. So anyway, for anybody that wants specific things, I will send you everything I've got. Just let me know. If I was just to post everything, it would just be too much. But I am going to continue developing the website and our online learning series. We are currently actively working on a learning series for surveying, for layout and control, for lift drawings, and for tact planning. And soon after that, we're not actively working on it, but team management, team balance, and health. And there's just some other really good courses that we're going to put up. So that's going to grow faster and faster and faster. So I'm excited about that too. So man, let's get into this podcast today. I am like jacked. So conflict. Why control something at a central location when it's best handled locally? And let me just talk a little bit about politics in a non-political way, meaning I'm not going to, assert one way or another from a political standpoint, but I can say that there were theories, concepts, and intentions and even in the Federalist Papers with the founding fathers in the design of our country and the Constitution, that the local counties, cities, and states would handle things at a local level where they were closer to the problems and better able to deal with things, right? And on a federal level, the federal level was the federal government's intention was to make sure that, that commerce was regulated, that the states played nice, there was no tyranny, protect our borders and our rights. The federal government was here to make sure that the states never infringed on the rights of the people within the United States of America. Now, if somebody's like, no, I like a strong federal government, hey, fine, I love you. If somebody's like, give it back to the states, I love you. I do it. Hey, think whatever you want. And I will too. What I'm saying is our country was designed that the federal government protected our borders and our rights, and that the states would handle everything else. The states, the cities and the counties and the people would handle everything else. And here's why I think that would have been a better scenario, right? So Democrats and Republicans are like super at odds with each other. Like everybody hates each other. It's not even like civil anymore. It's, I'm going to throw a brick at your head and I don't care if you die kind of stuff now. And it's really because whatever one person decides, the other person is affected by it, because it's always done on a federal level. Everything, because of expediency, is done at a federal level. So when you think about taxes or immigration or birth control or abortion or, gay rights or any of these things, everyone's like, the quickest way we can get this done is to get control of the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the executive branch, and make sure that we're passing legislation that will affect the entire country. And then the other half of the country, whatever works for half of the country doesn't work for the other half of the country. The system was designed where the federal government would stand somewhat more idle, and that the House of Representatives and the senators would be in session only partially in the year. Now they're in session like practically all year, except for, some breaks, or when they're, for a brief moment out of session, and that the states would handle it. And the concept was this, if in California, there's a lot of environmental and progressive legislation, and I don't like that, I can move to Texas. And if somebody doesn't like the conservative rebel state Texas legislation, they can move to California. You can vote with your feet because every state handles it individually. And so if somebody believes in socialism, great, go to a socialist state. If somebody believes in capitalism, great, go to a capitalist state. You know what I mean? Like there was enough space for everyone. And there was always a backup, right? But now if there's legislation that goes through, it's on a federal level, it affects everybody and we're stuck with it, right? The same thing happens to companies, is that it's more expedient, it's easier to legislate from a regional leadership team level instead of letting the job sites handle them at local levels where they're better able to deal with the problems. So the same principle applies. And the reason it happens is because you want immediate control, you want satisfaction, you want control. But the bottom line is as soon as you have control, you lose freedom, you lose autonomy, you lose engagement. So there are trade-offs with these things, right? And I really have always enjoyed the concept, hey, do you want peace or freedom, right? The more libertarian people or, conservative, I don't know what to say, like freedom-loving people would rather have freedom, which comes with a certain amount of chaos and sacrifice. The peace-loving people would rather give up some of their freedoms for the sake of peace, and because you can't have a ton of both, meaning most of the time it's either peace or freedom, or at least it's a balance of the two. So if you're on a regional leadership team and you're going to start to take control of things, that's fine. You'll comfort yourselves, but you're going to discomfort the teams and lose engagement. If you let the team still have some autonomy and take their control, then you're going to create some more chaos for you at a regional leadership level team. There are trade-offs for both. I really believe in the system where they have a clear enough path. It's a principle-based direction that you're taking, and there's certain parameters within which the teams need to operate, but they're able to innovate themselves. So let's keep talking about that. I'll just tell you a quick story. There was a client that I worked with, where they had attempted a system of alignment where what they wanted to do is tell all of the employees where they're headed and have every functional group align in that direction and somewhat autonomously head in that direction. And the company got frustrated and then started to use that same system instead of for alignment, for scaling communication back and forth and to become a total control system. So it went from an alignment system to a total dictatorship, like total control, big brother kind of a system, where the leadership team didn't trust anybody else to make their own decisions, told everybody what their goals were. And it's quite off-putting. And the engagement from employees went way, 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 way down. And I have seen that companies do that. They start to drift into failure. So that's just a quick little story for you. You have no idea who I'm talking about. I just want to make that clear. Here's what I want to say. There are rules, routines, and discipline. And so sometimes we get into the idea of thinking that, oh, well, I'm either going to let the job sites figure this out or I'm going to take it. Like it's either or. But what about an and, right? What if there was this, and I believe this is the way it is. What if you as a regional leadership team, or wherever you are, this could apply to small company, big company, your team, regional leadership team, whatever. What if you said, hey, there's three things here. There's some rules, there's some routines, and there's some disciplines. The rules are the minimum expectations. We want our projects safe, clean, and organized, and we want our customers taken care of, and you have to at least make this much money. Okay? That's a pay to play. Those are rules. Okay? The routines are, this is how we typically do payroll. This is how we code our P cards. This is typically what project management software we use. These are the routines that our company has to take some of the brain power out of what we're doing and put them into habit loops and cycles. But here are the disciplines, meaning the autonomy that you have as a team, meaning that you can use your mental discipline or the discipline of the team or the decision-making ability of the team to go do these things as long as you stay within the parameters, right? So why not identify what all three of those are and say to everybody, these are rules, these are routines, and this is your autonomy. And give them a lot of autonomy and let them know, look, this is your ball field. This is where you can, all I need is this and all of the rest of the stuff you can decide on your own. Why not? Like, that's pretty fantastic. And actually, I'm going to tell you, I had this story later on in the outline, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now. I once saw a leader, which I respected quite a bit, in a leadership role, and he never communicated with anybody. Because of a desire for autonomy, he wouldn't provide any direction. And I actually asked certain times, I was like, hey, why don't you say something? Why don't you tell us where we're headed? Why don't you share some of the things the leadership team is doing and things like that? And his response was, that's not how it's done. That's not how it's done. That's not how it's done. And I really disagree with this. That's just leaving people in the dark, right? That's being unclear. That's saying that team number one isn't functioning. That doesn't mean, like, just because you're communicating something doesn't mean that you're dictating, doesn't mean you're reducing autonomy. And it doesn't mean that you're hindering your teams. It just means that you're communicating. Everyone, and I mean everyone, in the organization wants the leadership team number one, to be functioning, all other teams to be functioning, and they need certain information from a regional leadership level. So let me give you an example. Do project teams want everything decided for them? No. Do project teams never want to hear from regional leadership? No. Do project teams want the things they need from regional leadership? Yes. Do they want to know what routines are in place? Yes. Do they want to know what they have the autonomy to do themselves? Yes. And that's the leader's job, to communicate. That kind of clarity is the leader's job, the leadership team's job to communicate that clarity. What are rules? What are routines? And what is discipline? So I feel like a great leader will tell a region, tell a company segment, a business unit or whatever, and say, hey, this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. These are our standard operating objectives. This is what's most important right now. This is our thematic goal. What's most important in the next 3 to 6 months. These are the goals that we're working on. We're asking every project to do this, this, and this. And oh, by the way, all of the rest of your goals, the alignment, the clarity, where you're headed, the innovation is up to you. And we support you. And let me communicate with you, company. This is how we support you and how we will support you with money and examples of that autonomy and examples of that innovation. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. That kind of clarity is huge. That kind of clarity is fantastic, because we need to segment between rules, routines, and discipline. It's not all or nothing. And the problem is that regions get bigger, and there tends to be more bureaucracy and more control that comes into the system. If you have ever read First Break All the Rules, which is a fantastic book about management, or Scaling Up Excellence, they say, hey, as the company gets larger, more bureaucracy, more structure is going to enter. But you can hold that back to acceptable levels if we do things the right way. So let's think about this. What does a regional leadership team generally expect from a project team? Project needs to be safe, clean, organized, make a decent amount of money, even if it's 0.85, 0.9% of the original financial target, with happy clients. What do project teams expect? A certain amount of autonomy, the money to do their job, freedom, and support when needed. When they need help with a support system, they want that support system. You can see that there are certain needs and wants. Nobody wants the regional leadership team to tell them how to be safe, how to be clean, how to be organized, how to make money, how to do customers, how to do their job, how much money they should spend, how much freedom they should have, how much support they should need. They just want the regional leadership team to give them the autonomy, the money, the freedom, and the support. And the regional leadership team just wants the teams to be safe, clean, organized, make money, and have happy customers. Everything is segmented. Let's not take complex systems and try to turn them into non-complex systems, because then we get fooled. So here's a couple of principles I want to talk about. Variation comes when there's no standardization. So a region has to standardize, right? So first, there has to be minimum standards. Second, everyone needs to understand clearly and should be told that they are expected to innovate above and beyond those minimum standards. So like, for instance, if I said minimum standard on a project, master schedule with a tact plan, and that you have a weekly work plan, minimum standard. You go find out how to do it. You go do it. You go get the help. You put your brain power. You design your trailer. You do all these things. This is a minimum standard. If you want to take it to the next level, you want to add day planning in there. You want to add worker huddles in there. You want to add pull planning in there. You want to add Scrum in there. Like, go ahead. You can take it as far as you want. We're not going to tell you the minimum and the maximum standard. That's when companies go wrong, when they say, here's the minimum we expect, but don't go above and past this. Right. And my example of the company that I saw where they turned an alignment system into a total control system, they were like, not only will you do this, but you also cannot ever do anything else. You're stuck with this. So there was a minimum floor and a maximum ceiling. They were boxed in. But what we should have is a culture of minimum standards where we can innovate as high as we want to go, as long as it's within certain parameters, right? You're not going to go spend $3 million without regional leadership approval, right? So that's the first concept. So the regional leadership team should expect those minimum standards, and teams should innovate from there. The other thing is that a regional leadership team has to be high functioning. They're team number one, and they have to provide the 4 disciplines. And that's where they build their leadership team. They create clarity around what the organization is and what they're doing. They communicate that clarity, and then they reinforce that clarity through human systems. I one time heard of a company that was going to start either incentivizing or punishing their superintendents based on safety performance. But corporate hadn't set up the right orientation systems, hiring systems, corporate safety plans, training systems, and things like that for superintendents to even receive a successful workforce. And so I'm like, oh gosh, that feels horrible. Like, you can't do that. That's absolutely horrible. And it's because here in that perfect example, and it's a perfect example, the regional leadership team or corporate owed oriented people, trained people, a good workforce, hired workforce, great systems, standard safety manual, standard work for how the company likes to do things. And the project team owed the supervision of those crews, the profitability of those crews, the safety of those crews. But if you're just going to go hire random craft workers, not orient them properly, not know what they're trained for, not set them up, not have a training program for them, not have anything to identify what they're capable of doing, and then just chuck them out on a job site and then say, oh, you're responsible for their safety. Like, no, we're not doing that. That's stupid. So I think we have to compartmentalize, right? So I always like to use the dustpan and the broom analogy, and I've used it. I think I even used it yesterday, but like they're two separate functions, right? So let's say that, in the safety analogy I just gave you with self-performed work, the job site is the dustpan receiving that stuff and being the home for it. They're the ones where the work takes place on their projects. Corporate or the regional leadership team is the broom, sweeping things into it, right? And what the problem is when regional, when the people holding the broom run everything all the way across the board like it's a broom, and everybody on the job site expects everybody to interact with everything like it's a dustpan. No, we're different. We serve different functions. You're the broom, I'm the dustpan, right? So same thing when it comes to regional teams with a bunch of projects. The projects have to stay in their lane and the regional leadership has to stay in their lane, and don't try and play federal government and standardize everything and punish half the people and slow down your productivity. So the second thing I would say to have in place is have team one functioning with the 4 disciplines of having a highly functional team, clarity around the region, where the regional organization the company is headed, communicate that clarity, and then reinforce that clarity through human systems. That means hire the right people that align with what the company's doing and fire the wrong people, because when you don't fire the wrong people or correct the problems, you're just sending problems to the project teams. So like a project, if I'm a project team, I expect the regional leadership group to provide the resources, the money, the information, the systems, the support, the training, and the proper qualified management team, and to fire the ones that don't cut it, or to discipline or to correct or to train the ones that don't cut it, so that anything that's sent to my project that I receive into my little dustpan can properly function with the supervision I'm able to give. Okay, here's the other thing I would do. If I was on a regional leadership team, I would immediately create a clarity document. At the top of it, it would have the name of the region, the business unit, the whatever you want to call it, the office. And then it would say under that, what is our purpose, our mission, our vision, our values? What is our big, hairy, audacious goal even? And then it would say, what in this region are our standard operating objectives? And then the key thing is, what's most important right now? What is our thematic goal? What is the next most important thing for this business unit, for this region in the next 3 to 6 months? And what 3 to 5 goals, which are called defining objectives, will get us there? Meaning we have to get into the healthcare market is a key thing. We need to train our supers is a key thing. We need to increase our management staff by 20 people. Like, what are the 3 to 5 key goals which will help us in the next 3 to 6 months to accomplish the thing that's most important? And on that thing, you should be clear, what are the expectations of job sites, minimum standards, and what things are we asking project teams to innovate on to help us solve problems? Like, be clear about it. Scale that communication. If you're a regional leader, why are you not talking more? You have to mention something 7 times. If a regional leader is communicating, I'd say double or quadruple it, and you're still not even close. Now, when I say communicate, that doesn't mean control everything. That doesn't mean micromanage. That means teach. That means inspire. That means ask questions. That means issue a challenge. That's great stuff. And, if every region had this clarity document, which made the clarity between, rules, routines, and disciplines pretty clear, then project teams would know where they have license to innovate, which is hopefully quite a bit. And then the regional leadership teams could check in with projects at check-ins, like before NTP, 1/3 milestone, 2/3 milestones, whatever, and really get a feel for the project, but trust that there's quite a bit of direction happening on the project side. So here's where I think this is key. Every project, and nobody does this, just so you know, like if you're like, oh yeah, Jason, we do that. No, you don't. I'm telling you, like, let me help you out with it if you think you're doing it. I promise you, It's so much more than you think it is. Every project should have a clarity document, not just a financial target, not just a targeted end date, not just, quality goals, not just safety targets. Every project should be able to answer, what is the purpose of this project? What is our mission? What does that look like through our vision? What does this team specifically within the framework of the corporate structure value? What are we good at? Okay. What are our standard objectives that the owner is expecting from us? What is most important right now in the next 3 to 6 months? And what are the 3 to 5 defining objectives or defining goals that are going to get us there? And then under that, you list out all of the team members and you put a dot in the matrix of which ones those team members are really going to help Bird Dog. And that team has an amazing aligned focus, meaning that team needs to be dealing with the innovation. That team needs to be deciding what the operation should look like. That team needs the autonomy. That team needs the autonomy to take care of their customers. That team. And so what we need to do is free up regional leadership resources to where they can spend more time with each individual project at key check-ins, but not just say, how are you doing according to my expectations? How are you doing according to the clarity document of your specific project? And check in at certain milestones. Because more companies, as they get more and more rules, that's wrong. No. We don't need you to regulate in federal government the rest of the jobs. We need you to communicate more. We need you to train more. We need you to teach more. We need you to quadruple the training. If your region is getting bigger and you feel like you're losing control, you should not go towards control. You should not go towards bureaucracy. You will drift into failure. You should head headlong into scaling clarity through the Patrick Lencioni model of the advantage. Communicate more, teach more, and quadruple your training. And to become a values and principle-based organization. And like every week, hey, everybody, this is where we're headed. You guys get to decide how we're headed there. Let's go. Hey, everybody, it's week 2. This is where we're headed. You guys get to decide where you're headed. We'll check in with you, but let's go. Hey, everybody, this is where we're headed. You get to decide how we're going to head there and make decisions. Let's go. Over and 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 over again. That is the role of the regional leadership team. And so here's some other suggestions. For projects to remember some of the pay-to-play minimum standard guidelines, there have to be triggers, whether it's morning huddles, daily trainings, weekly check-ins, videos, standard template items on meetings. I heard a story today. There's a really successful company. Actually, I think it's the Ritz-Carlton, and they're fantastic, and they're a great company, very profitable, just fantastic organization. They've got like 28 core values. And so people are like, don't like that. But what makes it successful is that each team reviews a core value every morning. And so it's indoctrinated in them. And sure, they'll only see, review all the core values in a month, but over and over and over when they talk about it, it's there. So if somebody was like, well, I don't talk at all, like that one leader that I talked about that I feel like was misguided. I don't ever send any messages. I want to give them autonomy. You're not giving them autonomy. You're leaving them in the dark. What you need to do is specifically communicate the autonomy that they have and encourage them and teach them. And I think that wisdom will prove out anytime you observe it. The other thing is, if you do have a regional leadership team, the worst thing that can happen is they make all the decisions and then push things out. You're going to have to let people take that journey with you and implement with people, or even if you have people outside the leadership team, have a key influencers group. And the key influencers group, and this works, most of the time, are the last voices to be presenting the changes and the first ears to hear when things are going wrong. Right. And they may not be on your leadership team, but they might be a really influential senior project manager or a project executive, or they might be a really influential superintendent or scheduling guru or something like that. It would be better as you do innovate at a regional level, if you have to do it with your key influencers so you can stay as close to the people that are actually solving the problems as humanly possible. Right. And I just want to say one more thing is that Regional leadership teams, if you tell people how to do it, that's bad. If you tell people the results that you expect and give them latitude to get there, that's good. Okay. And here's another couple of concepts I would say. From a regional leadership team standpoint, spend your time with your best people. Do not be throwing money into your bad projects. Do not be dispatching your best people to your bad projects. Absolutely fix your bad projects, but do not send your best people there. You're going to have to go fire somebody, shore up the team, make some massive changes. The worst thing you can do is start being reactionary and sending your general supers and your field directors and your project directors and your ops people to these garbage projects and babysitting and playing savior with people that don't know how to run their jobs. The best thing would be create anchor projects that are remarkable that people can tour and learn from. That is like the single biggest strategic advantage that I can recommend. And then have it be a fresh eyes touring these projects, scaling the information. And for the jobs that are not succeeding, you're going to have to make some role transitions, get some right people in the right seats, and the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus pretty quickly. Solve the problem. Don't play savior with people. If they're not cutting it, train them, develop them. And if they're not responding, then get rid of them. Because when I say get rid of them, there's some place that wants them and they're going to be happier. Okay. So spend your time with your best people, send your best people to your anchor projects and win. Because here's the thing, when you send everybody to your crap projects, you're incentivizing everybody to be crap. But when you are working with your best people and creating anchor projects, there's some competition, some jealousy, there's some striving to be better and a motivation to fix the problems, right? So you need to be moving everybody into a positive direction instead of spending your time with your most whiny kids. You know what I mean? Like if you've got a good daughter and I'm just going to say bad daughter that's out there doing drugs and whoring around, or a boy that's whoring around or something like that, and you're always just playing savior with that bad kid. They're not bad, but you know what I mean, doing bad things. Then eventually one day the good kid is going to be like, well, I don't get any attention around here. I'm going to go off the deep end. You know what I mean? But if you spend your time with your best kiddos and give your other kiddos what they need, but say, hey, I'm going to reward good behavior, then there's some incentive there and they can make their own decisions, right? So there's some free parenting advice that's either going to help you or really hurt your family. Sorry. Anyway, so I love this. The other thing is fresh eyes. In fact, I once was told by a regional leader somewhere, I was like, we need to be doing fresh eyes meetings for projects before they start, 1/3, 2/3. And he was like, well, go ahead, giddy up, sign up. I'm like, what? He's like, the presumption was it would take too long. Well, it doesn't. These check-ins actually being on location, on the spot, are 100% absolutely fantastic. It's the way to do it. You get diversity in there. The strategic advantage for companies that don't want to drift into failure is diversity of thought and diversity of teams. So we have to get fresh eyes. We have to get these anchor projects, these remarkable projects. We need to be touring each other's jobs. If I was on a regional leadership team, I would make darn sure my best people were on these anchor projects, and it would be mandatory that all other projects would share and tour and scale and give each other fresh eyes and create a cohesive network of people. And to do that, you have to build a culture. But really the bottom line is that the job sites need to decide, but the regional leadership needs to create the environment. And so are you creating human systems and reinforcing the clarity of your region, your organization through human systems, through hiring, firing, incentives, bonuses, discipline, anything, right? Recognition. Are your human systems filtering in the good and filtering out the bad so that only our projects get only our best resources? And most of the time what happens is that the regional leadership doesn't do that and they give projects crap resources and they're like, what the hell, you know? No, come on, guys. Check in, give them the parameters, give them the boundaries, help them get some clarity, help them set their own goals, give them the best resources on earth, and then expect great things from them. But don't give them crappy resources and then blame everything on them. That's not the way it works. So what we need to do is make sure that we understand the real meaning of discipline. You know, when Jim Collins is talking about disciplined thought, disciplined behavior, what he was talking about is, do you have the discipline to stay within your red zone? Do you have the discipline to fire somebody when they don't meet expectations? Do you have the discipline to reorganize a project team when they're failing? Do you have the discipline to keep your best people and your best projects and not dispatch them to play savior? Do you have the discipline to do the right thing? Do you have the discipline to scale communication? Do you have the discipline to be clear about what you expect? Do you have the discipline to let project teams have a certain amount of autonomy? And so what are your disciplines? Because what you're attempting to do is decentralize the anticipation of problems. A lot of times regional leadership teams want control because they want to anticipate the problems because they want to look good. Decentralize the anticipation of problems. And the way you do that is by supporting the project teams, but giving them systems and a culture and a continuous improvement system where they are incentivized to bring up problems, not punished. And so again, the regional leadership sets minimum standards. They provide the framework, the boundaries, and they provide the support. Teams need to exceed standards, stay within the framework, and innovate. And so what we need to do is get these projects localized, meaning if you were on the leadership team going to set goals, why not set those goals on the job? If you're going to be clear, why not set those clear items on the job? If you're going to train, why not train on the job? Why not do what you are going to do in a federal government type way? Why don't you do it in a state way on the actual projects and let them have their own clarity document, their own goals, their own thematic goals, their own training, their own autonomy, their own customer specifics, their own systems, their own ways to take care of their own customers, but just check in with them and make sure that you've set minimum expectations, right? Localize and spend more time there. Why not set the goals locally? And this is important. So I've had a blast with this podcast. Like, this is super fun. I'm making it sound super easy. I will say, I've done this before. It works. I've seen companies depart from this. It doesn't work. And I would just recommend that we get real good clarity around what's rules, what's routines, and what's discipline. What's rules, what's routine, and what's autonomy. Because the current condition is regional leadership teams will get bureaucratic and controlling, and they'll tell everybody how to do something when it's their job to tell everybody what the expectations are so that the job sites, the project teams can say how and reach that goal with the right support and resources. So here's the challenge. Get some consulting, get some facilitation. That's probably my best advice, right? Because here's the thing. If you want to design a project, design a human. What does a human need? They need purpose. They need goals. They need support. They need a mentor. They need training. What does a job need? They need purpose. They need goals. They need support. They need mentors, and they need training. So do they have purpose in their clarity document? Do they have goals in their clarity document? Do they have the right resources from regional leadership for support? Do they have anchor projects to see how it's done with proper people that are able to scale up excellence? And do they have double and quadruple the training as a normal company? Because that's the key. Purpose, training, clarity, communication. Purpose, training, clarity, communication. And the glimpse of this is that we don't have to head down these controlled bureaucratic environments. We can head down the principle values-based direction and really have teams working at 100% capacity. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.